Welcome to the podcast Compels You. I have no intro prepared. My name is Stacie. I am obsessed with horror movies, and here with my co-host Bill, we talk about horror movies to appease some AI mastermind that we invented in our imaginations. How are you tonight, Bill?
Besides my just really bad allergies and like being in the middle of like a heat streak, I am doing great. How about yourself?
Like same. Allergies, headache,
Ah.
hot, but it's always hot. Here in hell where I live. Have you seen any good movies lately?
Oh man, I was slacking a little bit this week. I watched a movie. Have you heard of like they call it the camera trilogy? It's the 13 cameras and 14 cameras. Does that ring a bell?
No, not at all.
It's not a very good series by any means, but it's one of those that's just kind of a fun one to throw on and watch. But anyway, I watched the first one, which is 13 cameras, second one, which is 14 cameras. And then I found out there's a third one on there, which is actually the highest rated, which how often does that ever happen where the second sequel is the highest rated of the entire series?
Never?
Never, pretty much never.
Star Wars?
Star Wars is always the exception to every rule. Everyone's like, Star Wars. But that's true. Anyway, this was one of those movies I started watching. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up and there was like 10 minutes left. So I had to backtrack and it wasn't very enjoyable. I wasted a lot of time on it. Outside of that, I sadly have not seen any other horror movies this week. How about you, Stacie?
As promised, I did see Lake of Dracula, 1971, movie from the Toho Studios of Japan, which I saw at the Alamo Drafthouse Friday night graveyard shift series of horror movies. And my conclusion is that Toho Studios movies are a lot more fun when the protagonist is not a woman, because then the misogyny is a lot less in your face. The protagonist in this movie was a woman, and everyone at every turn was doubting her. Why don't you lie down a while, honey? Like, there's no way what you are saying that you saw actually happened. That was basically the whole movie. Oh, and there's vampires, and somehow it's genetic. Like, you can carry a vampire gene, can skip generations, and then suddenly you have yourself a vampire child, which I guess kind of goes along with our theme tonight.
That's funny. I was just thinking that I'm like the whole genealogy of spooky creatures is at play.
But then, like, yeah, that vampire child can then bite people the normal way and turn them into vampires. However, they turn back to normal once you've killed the master vampire. I think that's the mechanic of it.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, not that exciting of a movie. I was a little turned off by the sexism, but what's new? I am looking forward to seeing Longlegs. I think I now have tickets to see it.
When does that come out?
Maybe in a week or so, because they were selling tickets. Last time we talked about it, the trailer that they were showing was like, that first shorter trailer that didn't
Hmm.
really reveal very much. And so I remember we talked about it, like we didn't know whether it was supernatural or not, but it looked like it could go either way from the trailer.
Right.
Clearly in my mind, I was like, it's definitely going to be supernatural, but they didn't really say. So now with the longer trailer, it's really a good trailer. It's pretty scary. I don't know if you've seen it, but it lets us know for sure that it's both like a serial killer, psychological horror, and it has supernatural elements. So I think like we can both be happy with it. I'm
Awesome.
definitely here for that. The funny thing about the trailer, though, although it is very scary, at the very end they do have Nicolas Cage's voice, and I associate him with such goofy characters that it makes me laugh every time. But I'm absolutely positive, like with his acting chops, he can be terrifying as well, no
Oh,
doubt.
totally agree. Speaking of trailers, were you into Pearl and X at all?
I was not.
Okay, because I was gonna say the Maxine trailer just came out not too long ago, maybe a week ago, and
I've seen it already so many times. I'm tired of it.
it's different, that's for sure. I liked Pearl a lot. X was fine, but I'm intrigued to see what they're gonna do with the third one.
I like never got around to seeing X, and then Pearl just didn't seem like something I wanted to see. Really, I'm not really so much of a fan of that guy, Ty West.
Ty
Is that his
West.
name? Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll see it. Like, I'll watch it on streaming or whatever
Yeah.
eventually.
I'm not a huge Ty West fan. House of the Devil was kind of an interesting movie. Like just like the aesthetic was really
I,
cool. It was like
I
a
did like that.
60s, I want to say. Yeah, that was a very slow burn, but I thought that one was pretty good. X didn't really blow my mind, but I think Pearl was a very well shot movie. It's a very cool prequel. And then Maxine, I guess, is after X, I think. I don't
I
remember
think
the
so.
yeah. So I'm excited to see. And they actually filmed X and Pearl like back to back, like right away, which is always cool when they do that.
Sounds like
I
a
think
lot of work.
all the actors were, I think it might have been during COVID, and all the actors were already in a certain area where they basically had to stay for a while. So Mia Goth and Ty West wrote the screenplay for Pearl during that time and then filmed it somehow. So
I didn't
kind of
realize
cool.
she was involved. Now I kind of want to see it. Like I didn't realize she had any writing credit.
I think it was only for Pearl. I think they brought around for some writing. So yeah, that was kind of cool.
So speaking of trailers, if you follow like horror news, you know that the trailer for Nosferatu was like teased to be coming out soon, like this weekend. Now I find out that you can't actually see it online. What's going to happen is they're only going to play it when you see the movie The Bike Rider. So fuck that. No thanks. That's the only movie it's attached to. I'm
Is that a
putting this
normal
news.
thing? I've never heard of that
No,
before.
and I don't know why they're doing it. I haven't figured out the strategy.
I mean, that movie's got to be a real piece of crap if they have to like attach a infamous trailer
So
to the front of it,
it's
right?
coming out on Christmas Day, so I hope it's not a piece of crap. Also,
Mm.
it's got Willem Dafoe and Bill Skarsgård,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
I like
looks like
them.
it's going to be beautiful. However, like this whole trailer debacle just reminds me that this is at the end of the day a Robert Eggers movie. So here's hoping like it's more like Vivitch, which was
Oh,
awesome,
yes. Uh-huh.
and less like Northman, which was in fucking sufferable and a waste of
Yeah.
Bjork and Rand.
Is it pronounced Vivitch? I heard so many people say that, but
I don't think so.
is it just a joke? It's got to be a joke based on the
I think
font,
we're
right?
all just joking. Yeah.
Okay, I figure as much. I'm like, am I missing out on something here? But
It's
anyway,
so much more fun to say that way.
Vivitch. That does have a good feel to it. So, are we on to this week's film?
Why not?
Why not?
It's a long movie. We might as well get started.
Oh, I know, right? I say that in a disgusted way, but I'm really quite delighted. So, for this series, we bid farewell to bland beaches and box office busts and passionately prayed for past plots. Our pleas were perfectly answered with a pristine pairing of priests and prequels. All right, that's enough playful pandering. Prequels can help fill in the important gaps that precede some of our favorite films, giving us a more well-rounded version of the characters and plots that captured our attention in the first place. Or they can be the brainchild of a soulless movie producer who prioritizes milking more money out of an existing IP over coming up with new movie ideas. With no shortage of horror franchises centered around Catholicism, we had many to choose from. Tonight's movie is 2024's The First Omen, written and directed by Arkasha Stevenson, with additional screenplay credits from Tim Smith and Keith Thomas, and a story by Ben Jacoby. This film marks Arkasha's directorial debut. The cast includes Nell Tiger Free, which is my favorite name yet on this podcast.
Mine too.
I had to like do a double take. So yeah, the cast includes Nell Tiger Free, Tarfik Barham, Sonia Braja, Ralph Ineson, and Bill Nighy. Nell Tiger Free and Ralph Ineson both appeared in the Game of Thrones universe, and you might also recognize Ralph from 2015's The Vivitch, which is a film I really liked. The film tells the story of a young novitiate named Margaret whose calling has brought her to Rome to take her vows and become a nun. At the orphanage she is assigned to, she finds a kindred spirit in Carlita, a young troubled girl who is often segregated from the other children due to supposed bad behavior. After an uncharacteristic night of partying at a club, Margaret blacks out and wakes up with a slight hangover and no memory of what happened. Did something happen? Something must have happened, right? Margaret slowly learns of the church's heinous intentions, but is it already too late? We'll find out. Stacie, had you seen The First Omen?
Yes, I saw it April 24th at the Alamo Drafthouse, which I briefly mentioned in our episode, Surf and Sacrifice Part 1, The Wicker Man. And I have just a couple of comments that you might find to be fun and or factual. I don't know.
Ooh,
First, I just want to say I think it's amazing that this is Arkasha Stevenson's feature directorial debut because
yes.
it comes across as a very maturely made film, like the work of one's lifetime. It could easily be.
I couldn't agree more. I thought that throughout the entire movie.
I'm so glad. And Nell Tiger Free also just like blows me away. Also, it's fun to remember that she's British, which is fun because she's playing an American. And while she was in the Game of Thrones as a teenager, her real breakout was in the M. Night Shyamalan TV series Servant. She's also a singer and she's in a band called Your Parents, which is a great band name. I know, Bill, that you had not seen it before because we talked about it. So, first, I wonder if you've ever seen the original Omen.
I have. I saw it a long time ago, so I remember the general strokes of it. I was going to watch it again before this, but I just unfortunately ran out of time. But yeah, it's a great movie. It goes down as one of the classics for a good reason, I would say.
So, did you happen to have three things that you expected to see in the movie?
I sure did. And I gotta get, again, we might have to disagree on the scoring on this one a little, but I think my first one was pretty miraculous, given the topic, which was broken glass used as a weapon. I feel like you could maybe make some kind of case for that at the beginning, maybe partial points.
Psychological weapon, maybe.
Yep, perfect. Done. Number two, an alcoholic priest. Number three, a creepy recording. I did not do terribly well on this one. I really thought I was going to get the alcoholic priest one.
How about this? I'm sure there were alcoholic priests in it. That just wasn't part of the plot. So I think we can just assume,
Perfect.
just like any segment of the pop, there's always alcoholism, any population. So I'll totally give you that one. And as for the creepy recording, the whole thing was kind of a creepy recording, wasn't it? So you come out on top as far as
Three
I'm
for
concerned.
three. Awesome. Well, I love how you can justify it. That's
Just,
beautiful.
remember the little people as
Oh,
you ascend the pyramid of power.
Stacie, do you have any content warnings outside of our standard content warnings?
Let's see. I would say fairly graphic and gory violence, body horror like you've never seen
Oh
before,
yeah.
and a graphic suicide. I do feel it would be prudent to include like some serious trigger warnings, like no joke, for multiple women being strapped down against their will, as well as incestuous sexual assault by a jackal that is mostly off screen, although we see the victim's face and there are scary sounds. Honestly, this is not a movie for everyone. If it's not for you, absolutely no shame in skipping it, sitting this episode out. But I'd like to point out that we have several episodes about much tamer movies you should go check out right now if that's you.
I love it. I believe, does that take us to our dark fact of the day?
It does, it does, it does. Cue the lady singing.
Dark fact.
Today's dark fact comes from a monastery in the small Missouri town of Gower. Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster was the founder of the Benedictine Sisters Monastery and passed away in 2019. 4 years later, in 2023, her body was exhumed to be moved to the monastery chapel, but when they opened the coffin, they found that there was almost no sign of decay. Bodies that defy decomposition are deemed incorrupt, which is a sign of holiness and often a justification for sainthood. She is believed to be the first Black woman in the US to be in an incorruptible state. And this is where it gets creepy, at least to me. Her body was placed on display at the church, and hundreds of people from all around have made the pilgrimage to see and touch her body. So her body was not embalmed when she was originally buried. And 4 years later, they put her body on a table, and people are like going and checking it out and stuff and like praying. What do you think about that?
Religion is weird.
Yes.
Also, on my travels in Central America, which I don't want to name exactly where I was because I don't want to be like making fun of anybody in particular, but there was some unofficial saint that apparently was in this state from like more than 100 years ago. And there was a place that you could go and see this corpse. I did
Oh,
not do that though.
yeah.
But everyone encouraged me that I totally should.
Well, and the weird part is like they encouraged people to like touch the hands and stuff, like
Yes, you can ask them for things.
not under glass or anything. It's just laying on a table. And the interesting part is I read on later into the article and it says like science, it's the whatever of science that apparently a body can stay pretty intact for like up to 5 years. So this is not like a terrible, I mean, it's unusual, but it's not a total anomaly. So basically, science has an answer for this. And to make it more interesting, her grave was actually, her coffin was cracked. So that actually let in more like minerals and air and stuff, which also helped to keep the body in a good state. So take that for what you will. I thought it was a very unusual thing. I had never heard of this incorruptible thing. I also thought it was weird that they opened up her coffin after they exhumed her. Like, why would you do that? Just move her to the next place. You don't have to like make sure she's in there. But
Yeah, that's suspicious.
yeah, a
What are
little
you doing
bit.
in there?
Yeah, it's real weird. That is our dark fact of the day. So we're going to take a brief intermission and we will be right back with a spoilerific discussion of the first Omen. So stick around.
The movie opens in the year 1971, which, if you're counting, that's like 5 years before the events of The Omen, the original Omen. And it opens with Father Brennan, the Herald of Doom in the original Omen movie, who has pretty much the same role in this movie, trying to get information out of another priest, Father Harris, but that's not important. In a confessional, I believe that is what that piece of furniture is called. Is that correct, Bill?
To my knowledge, I grew up a Lutheran, so
Oh, okay. So Brennan has his knickers in a twist as usual because some cursed girl child is going to usher in hell on earth or something. He shows Harris a baby photo. Harris seems distressed and describes a ceremony of some kind where a willing volunteer was hooded, tied down, and PIVSA'd by Satan. So, see y'all, I was not lying about those trigger warnings, and it only gets worse. So, we also kind of see this happening while we hear about it. Really, we just see the victim from the neck up with her face covered, and that's pretty disturbing.
yes.
She also seems to have changed her mind at this point, regardless of how much of a willing volunteer she was at some point. So, withdrawing consent, the baby in the photo that Brennan shows Harris is supposed to be the offspring of that odd couple, shall we say? Brennan then discovers Harris has vacated the confessional and fled the church. Brennan chases after him, which is the main thing that Brennan likes to do, other than bring people terrible news. At this point, I should mention that the church they are in is under construction with scaffolding set up all around the front entryway. And as soon as they run out of the church, we just know that an accident is going to happen. It's
Yep.
only a matter of when. And
Mhm.
the filmmakers know that we know, and they are milking this moment. Sure enough, a stained glass window and a pipe have a collision. There's some slow mo with like the colored glass raining down on the priest's heads. That's really kind of cool. And then I guess it's the pipe that eventually splits Father Harris's head in twain, revealing its contents. There's then a beautiful moment where he smiles at Father Brennan and his
Ugh.
front teeth are just a little bloody. And we think, we see you filmmakers. You have a sense of humor. Noted. Unfortunately, we never really see that sense of humor anywhere else, do we?
There's a couple little things thrown in, I think.
Please mention those things when we
I
get there
will,
because I want to see
for
if I
sure.
agree with you. But I
Yeah.
think for like the mainstream audience, like this is it. This is the last levity that we're gonna get.
There's one really obvious one later that's almost too surface level. But anyway, we'll get there.
Oh, can't wait to hear it. So, cut to Rome, which is the main setting of the events of this movie. Our lovely protagonist, Margaret, Nell Tiger Free. I just wanted to say that again. A
I don't blame you.
novitiate. A novitiate is like a nun hopeful, like a nun applicant. So she has not yet taken her final vows, and she's in her proper novitiate attire, which is a little different from the regular nun habit. She's arrived in Rome straight from someplace in America. I don't know, Connecticut or something. Nobody cares.
Pittsfield,
Pittsfield.
Massachusetts, I think.
Nobody cares. We are introduced to Cardinal Lawrence, played by Bill Nighy, who's awesome, who we learn has a friendly relationship with Margaret dating back to her childhood. It seems like it's probably thanks to him that she has been able to come to Rome for this amazing opportunity to take her vows, she thinks. They take a car ride to the convent orphanage Abbey, which I feel like the name of it was like Wizard Deli.
Oh, I didn't pay attention to that.
Let's pretend it's Wizard Deli because that's an
Done.
awesome name. Okay. So there's a few things to note about the car ride scene, please. First, they chose a great song for this scene. One of my all-time favorite weird songs called Some Velvet Morning by Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood.
Some velvet morning when I'm straight.
Anyway, in the movie, they do not play any of the amazing lyrics of the song. It's more like a backing track, but it's just like, it's a 1967 song. It's like, 3 years before the movie. So it's just like perfect. And it's such a weird song. It's completely the right vibe for the scene. It's amazing. So second thing to note, there's some civil unrest happening in Rome for good reason. Like these were labor demonstrations. They were important. There was this whole like trade union thing going on at the time. But Cardinal Lawrence makes it sound like they are all being staged by young Marxist atheists who hate the church. And he certainly hopes Margaret will play a part in regaining their trust. Not ominous at all, right?
Not at all.
Also, lastly, the driver's name is Damiano. They only say it one time, but see what they do there. Isn't that great?
That was good.
I guess that is a moment of humor as well.
Yes.
So Margaret gets dropped off at the orphanage convent abbey run by Sister Silva, who's also a famous actor. Can't think of her name right this second. And she provides some exposition about the place being a birthing facility for unwed pregnant mothers, as well as an orphanage and a convent. We get a glimpse of the birthing room, and it's like pretty grim looking. But I mean, we all know how great like women's health has been valued over the course of history. So perhaps this is just a normal situation for Italy in the 1970s. I don't know. Margaret meets a girl named Carlita, who is being punished for bad behavior. Margaret seems to identify with her right away, feels like a kinship, so to speak, with her. And in fact, I think the observant viewer would probably notice they kind of even look alike. Margaret tries to bond with Carlita, and Carlita licks Margaret in the face and gives her a creepy drawing. So they're off to a great start.
Yep.
Next, Margaret's hanging out in her new Italian apartment, kneeling on the floor and praying for her eternal soul, nun stuff. She has kind of a hallucinatory flashback of getting punished by nuns. Then a nun-shaped shadow on the wall seems to become a nun and walk toward her, which is a really nice scare. And then right after that, we meet Margaret's roomie, another novitiate named Luce, who could not be more different from Margaret. Luce's main thing is that she wears revealing clothing and she likes to party. One wonders why she even wants to become a nun.
Yeah.
She does reveal that she was called during an episode of teenage homelessness when she heard the voice. His voice. Purportedly the voice of God, but perhaps not.
Do you remember, did you see Black Swan?
Yes.
This, for some reason, these two's relationship reminds me of Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman. Like with Mila Kunis being like the hard partying one, and then Natalie Portman being like the kind of sheltered, very pure. And I think there's even a scene in Black Swan where they go to a club and then some crazy stuff ends up happening.
Yeah.
It's very similar. It just totally rang out to me like that.
Nice observation.
I also got the impression, like, why is it Luz or Luz? Luz?
Loose.
Why is Luce doing this? Like it doesn't, yeah. I'll talk about that later as I have some nitpicks there, but anyway.
Yeah. I mean, later, I think we obviously find out why she's doing it, but I also have some quibbles with that whole thing. But back at the Abbey, there's a cute scene where some orphans are teaching Margaret to say, I'm a butterfly and I should fly. I think I don't speak Italian. I only speak Spanish, but I think that's what they're saying. But they tell her that it means like, I'm a teacher and I love to teach, which is really
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, it is.
And then, we don't get that many very cute moments without horror. So that was nice. And then, of course, she peeks in on the punishment room in horror as Carlita is getting tied down to a bed, which weirdly is also a thing that used to happen to Margaret when she was a kid, according to Margaret's flashback. So
Mhm.
some parallelism there.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's too early to ask this, but do we ever see Carlita like hurt another child or like act out in such a way?
No, I think supposedly I mean, that's what like Sister Silvis
Mhm.
said happened,
Right.
but I don't think that's legitimately why she's being isolated.
And that's what
Well,
I figured. I just wasn't sure if we always see the aftermath.
yeah,
Oh no, she hit a child and they put her in the
yeah,
bed.
but yeah, I don't think we ever see her do anything. Like, the licking Margaret in the face is the weirdest thing that
Yeah, I
she
think
did, but
true. Yeah. Okay.
I
No,
guess
I was just
they had to
curious.
make it weird somehow.
That's true.
So Luce arrives just in that moment to provide some levity, I guess. And soon she has Margaret all dressed up in a sexy, revealing outfit, like more revealing than I, a non-nun and an atheist, would wear myself.
Right.
And high heels. Okay, I have a problem with this. So I don't think Margaret, who grew up in America, the seat of all worldly evils, yet arrived at the age of her majority, still hell-bent on being
Mhm.
a nun, would give in to temptation so easily and go out partying?
This is my one big thing about this movie. It seemed so out of left field. And you could almost say, like, okay, she's in a new country. She's really trying her best to like get along with people, maybe go with the flow, but it just seems like a step too big there to be
Yeah,
believable.
but as weird as that is, okay, the main problem I have is that she clearly cannot walk in high heels. And
Right.
you mean to tell me she's going out in them all night?
Hmm.
That is not a real thing, listeners. One does not just high heel it into Mordor. It's an actual skill that you have to learn. It's not unlike walking on stilts.
My wife has explained this to me numerous times. I'm like, it can't be that hard. She's like, yes, you don't just
Try
step into
it.
heels and like go for a walk. That's just not how they
Right.
work.
You'd end up in the hospital
Yep.
one way or another. But anyway, so they go out to a club. I think it's a little disco. Disco hadn't really taken off, but I think it was still called a disco.
Hmm.
And she flirts with a dude named Paolo. She gets lit, loosens up, ends up making out with a dude, and scene.
This one had rapey vibes all over it. I've seen so many
Oh, you
horror
think?
movies that are like have this. I mean, I just got those vibes.
I try to avoid those. So yeah, I wasn't totally getting it from him. Like, I didn't think he was
See, I
bad at
almost
that
thought he
time.
was too nice almost, and that it was like
Mm,
there was a plot there, and there, well, we'll find out later if there was,
I
but
just
like
believe people when they're too nice. I think that's the problem.
never trust a nice person ever.
So Sleeping Margaret has a little sequence there where she has a spider crawling on her face for no other reason than it made a good shot for the trailer, I think. Also we have spiders are always associated with demony shit.
And her hair is really cool here too. It's her hair's like sprawled out in like a
Oh yeah,
radial way across the
good
bed. It was just
call.
it was kind of a beautiful shot. I don't know
Because
why it
we
was
get to see
staged
that
this
hair
way.
later. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Good point.
I think we get to see it that way because it gives us the creeps,
Yes.
doesn't it? Like, it's
Everything for the
beautiful, but
creeps.
it's yeah,
Hmm.
something about it. I don't know. She then wakes up with a hell of a hangover, no memory of what happened after she blacked out. And that's kind of upsetting. But Luce tells her she didn't do anything bad. Luce brought her home safely. Later that same day, Margaret gets to witness the joy of live birth
Oh
in
man.
the same gross birthing room torture chamber, which let me assure you is exactly what you want to be doing the day of your first ever hangover. And it's quite a traumatic scene that, lucky
Yeah.
for the actor playing the fairly minor character of the birthing woman, renders more than one shot that makes the trailers. Lucky Duck Margaret then gets to see a birthing complication rarely witnessed in modern medicine. And I think the proper medical term for this, Bill, is a demon hand reaches right out of your front tushy.
I was wondering where you're going with that.
Yeah, Margaret reacts to that just about like you would expect.
Oh God.
I think Margaret is still recovering from this whole series of truly blessed demonstrations of God's love for humanity. when she is approached for the first time by Father Brennan, which is just the perfect order of things. In a rush, as always, he pleads for Margaret's help in tracking down the cursed girl child in the photo. He has reason to believe that she is living nearby and is in grave danger. Why is Margaret chosen for this mission, one might ask? What a good question. It seems that Brennan has been permabanned from the Abbey, and we can imagine why, as he's very meddlesome and needy, isn't he? Like,
Yes.
do this, believe that, trust me, because I said so.
Mhm.
So anyway, Margaret is like new in town, so he figures he'd try his luck. Well, she says no thanks. I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, there's nothing to really be too
Yeah,
put off by.
like red flags all over the place. Can't
Mhm.
blame her. So
Yeah.
so much for that, but he gives her his Addy just in case. The following day, it's a beautiful day. The sisters and the orphans are having a lovely time outside. Margaret then sees Sister Angelica, who incidentally has been skulking around giving Margaret the creeps. I haven't mentioned that. And Sister Angelica is now showing Carlita a drawing of a pregnant lady that, I mean, might accidentally reveal too much biological detail. And we can't have that, even though, for all we know, Carlita is like 16 years old. I don't think it ever says how old she's supposed to
No.
be, but she totally could be age of puberty or later. But we should totally be telling her that stork brings babies, even though they are born in the same building where the orphans live. I mean, I wonder what they think all the screaming is about.
Given what happens later, I wonder if that gives us a clue to her age, her involvement or non-involvement.
They might have revealed her date of birth. I just don't, or her year of birth. I
Yeah,
don't
I was
remember.
just because I was trying to figure it out too. I couldn't quite place her or any of these
Yeah.
kids, I guess, how old they are.
So after being told, Sister Angelica runs off and then appears on a balcony where she shouts, "It's
Oh,
all for you." And then she toasts herself like marshmallows and hangs herself just in case the fire goes out.
what a scene. What an attempt on her life there. She was sealing that one up. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
trifecta there.
Well, if you're going to set yourself on fire first, you're going to want to make sure that you get it done.
Right. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this scene came out of left field for me at least. I don't know.
Oh, no, I was just waiting for the scene to
Were
happen.
ya?
Yeah, because
Okay.
clearly it's a callback to the nanny hanging in the Omen. But
Right.
there's one thing that bothers me. So in the original, the nanny is who's like Damien's nanny is like, "Look at me, Damien, it's all for you."
Mhm.
But Sister Angelica just conveniently doesn't specify who she's talking to. We assume it's Carlita. The filmmakers certainly try very hard, like almost too hard, to get us to think that Carlita is the cursed girl child that Father
Mhm.
Brennan is looking for. But something just bothers me about that reference. Like, how convenient they leave out the name of the person,
Right. I agree.
Why say the line at all if you're going to do that?
Yeah.
All that, I guess, is enough to convince Margaret that Carlita might be the cursed girl child that Brennan is looking for. So she goes to see Brennan, who explains there's a secret church, secret evil church within the church. This is the whole reasoning. They so badly want to keep the church powerful and relevant, I guess, that they are willing to go along with the bright idea of advancing Satan's agenda on earth in order for people to actually believe that they need the church again. No way that could possibly go wrong, right?
It's really quite simple. I mean, come on. That's a point A to point B. It's
totally just chain Satan up and make him do what we want. That's totally how
yeah.
that works. So, due to opposing this group and generally just being a busybody, I imagine Father Brennan has been excommunicated. So, I guess that means they are pretty powerful and possibly going a bit mainstream or,
Mhm.
gaining in power and people. Brennan describes the awful, awful stuff that Father Harris confessed to him, the stuff about Satan making a baby.
Mhm.
Brennan and Margaret seem to believe that Carlita could be the daughter of Satan. Hey, Bill, you know who else is the daughter of Satan?
Who?
Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I wonder what she's up to these days.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They ought to make a Sabrina movie.
Oh, I like that idea. Bring it
And
into the
then
Omen verse.
they could be sisters. It's so sweet. Sisters and aunts and nieces because of the
Oh
weird
man,
incest. But
that
anyway,
gets confusing.
yeah, we don't have to talk about that. Anyhow, back in this movie, Brennan tells Mags, I'm just going to call her Mags.
I like that. It's very folksy.
It just came out.
That's great. Mags,
I
old
was
Mags.
reading another horror book where like one of the antagonists is named Mags. She's like this country British woman.
Okay, I could see that. That's great.
Brennan tells Margaret that the secret evil church plans to strap down the daughter of Satan so that Satan can, gross, impregnate his own child to create the Antichrist, which we know from the original movie is Damien, right? Right.
Mhm.
Maybe. I don't know. This movie has me questioning at times.
Hmm.
But the secret evil church wants to do this in order to trigger the apocalypse, because then people will need the church and the church will once again dominate humanity. So this might sound like a wacky movie plot, but I just want to point out that there are plenty of evangelical Protestants in the United States and maybe other places who really do want to use like violence in the Middle East to do pretty much the same thing. They think that they can bring about the events of Revelations. And they want to do it on much flimsier evidence, in my opinion, than this movie. So I'm just
Which is
saying.
terrifying.
So terrifying. Anyway, Brennan tells Mags to please find the files on Carlita's birth, because they must exist. There's no way people would just destroy that evidence,
That's a really good point. Yeah, it's like, come on. You're
Another
gonna keep
thing,
that
but
around for like the biggest potential cover up. Anyway.
but if they didn't, it would be really hard to make this movie because legend has it that she will need to have been born on the 6th day of the 6th month at 6 a.m. Guess it doesn't matter which year, though. If the birthday doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Oh,
Thank
I
you very
like
much.
it. I wish this movie had a countdown. I feel like anytime a movie has a countdown, like two more, like Donnie Darko, like 3
Yeah.
more days.
You know what? They don't even mention the date very often.
No.
Like we really don't have. It's just suddenly it's June 6th. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have liked a little build up.
So, another thing, there's also supposed to be a 666 birthmark somewhere on the body of this child, because everyone knows Satan likes to stamp his daughters'
Of
reproductive
course.
partners.
Yep.
I think that Margaret, like at this point, doesn't really want to believe that Carlita is the child of Satan, because that's terrifying. But
Sure.
also, she's taken a liking to her. So what does that mean for her? So at this point, I think she's just really hoping to find this stuff and prove Father Brennan is Looney Tunes, which from an outsider's perspective, it's the most likely explanation when you think of it. So then there's an art museum field trip or something. Is it an art museum?
Yeah, something like that. That's the impression I got.
Yeah. And Mags is using the opportunity to have a heart-to-heart with Carlita to, I guess to find out whether she's ever been molested is what it sounds like. But
Yeah.
also, like, if anyone's done anything weird to her, scared her. Carlita is like, maybe not really, but I don't know. Like, I see scary things. I don't know if they're real or not. And then Mags is like, oh, no big deal. I used to have the same thing. I learned that they were just tricks and lies of my brain due to being unhappy. And Carlita is like, my deal is not the same. And she runs away. Like, way to let the girl open up to you and then tell her like what she's experiencing isn't real. Way to be a
Right.
gaslighter, Mags. You should know better.
Oh, there's so much gaslighting in this movie.
So much. So Margaret takes off to find Carlita. She sees her sitting on a bench, and then a spooky hand slides across her back, but the owner of the hand is conveniently obscured by a pillar. So then
Oh, I
Margaret.
thought it was the sister that had jumped earlier. I don't know why I thought that.
Oh, it was, but it's like slowly revealed.
Oh, did I? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's slowly revealed, and then, woo, we have the what the fuck moment, and then boom, there's a jump scare because Sister Silva like slaps Mags on the shoulder, because that's totally how you get someone's attention.
Only in the movies.
In horror movies regularly. It tells her we have to go now. There's a riot. Can I just say the orphans have really cute field trip uniforms?
I know the little blue things with like the hats and the.
They look like those children's books, like Madeline.
Yeah.
Madeline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Compared
Madeline.
to those awful dresses they wear every day, that's like from Annie. Like
these were a huge upgrade.
Yeah. So it really is a riot in the street. Like, it's pretty wild. There's tear gas, there's people lighting fires, there's explosion. And then there's a really scary scene where Margaret is getting jostled about and manhandled and manhandled by a demonic finger or
Ugh.
slash gooey phallic appendage of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ew, it's really gross. Sister Silva is like standing there watching her. And then when we see it from her perspective, we see that Margaret is flipping out all on her own. Nobody is touching her. So, girl, you're going to be in trouble now. And sure enough, once they're back after their evening prayers and when they go silencio, silencio, that's really spooky. I just
That
want to
reminded
say.
me, have you seen Mulholland Drive, the David Lynch movie?
Maybe
Maybe.
a long time ago.
It's a really crazy one, just like all of his movies are, but there's a silencio scene in it that reminded me just of this. I have no idea if they would have
Oh,
taken it from that, but yeah.
they are film people, so
They are
perhaps,
they are
they've
film
studied
people.
for this their whole lives.
That's true. Fair enough.
um so Sister Silva wants to see her, and Margaret gets there, and it's like you're in the principal's office and there's like
Mhm.
other nuns sitting around who don't say anything, but looks very, very serious. And she gets told basically that she needs to take a step back from what she's doing, maybe postpone her vows. This is very upsetting to her. And it really seems like her attachment to Carlita is being called out as her main offense. But also, they kind of like throw some shade on her possible mental health issues. The good thing is, Margaret seems to spot an irregularity in the wallpaper,
Yeah.
so we know that has to be a clue of some kind. So that gives me a little bit of hope. I'm like, good. We needed to have this scene for that reason.
Yeah.
Uh, so then Margaret's being driven home and she spots Paolo from the club, like on the sidewalk. Remember Paolo? You
Of
thought he was a
course.
little bit date rapey, but
Oh
I
yeah,
was
no, I
I was
remember
sticking up
Paulo.
for him. Yeah. So she has the driver drop her off so she
Oh,
can
this is
talk
my
to
favorite
him.
scene.
Oh god, yeah. At first, Paulo like tries to ignore her, like he doesn't really want to see her, and he tries to get away. Which could be like any guy that you meet in a club, right? Nothing weird about that yet. But then,
Hello, talk to me.
Just look for them up.
and then a car hits him, of course, and pins him to a wall, and then the car like can't get started again to back up. So when you put it in neutral and just push it back,
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what this guy was doing.
things make no sense. But yeah,
No.
what follows is a horrifying scene, truly, in which Margaret tries to save Paolo by unpinning him, pulling him out from between the wall and the car, as the car is still trying to start. And what she ends up doing is separating his torso from his legs. And I don't know if that's what kills him, or my other theory is that he was already dead and she was just hallucinating that he was still alive. But either way, that was one of the tent poles of gruesomeness in this movie.
Yes. It was funny because when she went to pick him up, I'm like, wow, she lifted him really easily. And I'm like, is that just a mistake by the movie? Like they gave her a dummy to lift up and she just lifted it. And then I'm like, nope, that happened.
That is what it seems to be.
So this actually strangely connects this movie to our previous movie, Club Dread. A person ripped in half at the waist.
I didn't even think about that. We're so good at what we do. It's like we've been training our whole lives for this.
I don't think anyone's made this connection in the history of the world. I'm going to trademark this connection because no one's watched Club Dread and The First Omen back to back, I bet you.
We really need to get our website up and running so that we can like really put the truth out there about these movies.
People need to know.
I needed to know, and I didn't even know I needed to know. I mean,
no.
That's where we
but
are.
Needless to say, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's a very short scene, but man, this one came out of left field too. I was like,
I knew that was going to be one of your favorites. One of my favorites is immediately after that scene when she's so contrite, she's like panic praying. That's what that is.
That's right.
And then it's like a great place. The vocalists go wild with their scary vocalizations, and then we get pictures of different neighborhoods in Rome, like aerial pictures.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's worked so well. It's so great.
Is this where she's praying at the altar with like the candles all around? I know she might do that a couple times in this movie.
There's just a little bit of that.
Because there's a picture, if you look it up online.
Like crying and frantic.
Yeah. There's a picture though. There's a still shot of her praying in the front. It's from the back, and you see the candles on the bottom of the screen are like a mouth, and they're shooting up, so it's like teeth. And then there's another one on top, so it's like a jaw, and then there's two lights on top. It's kind of a cool visual, almost like she's being like consumed by something. Kind of cool.
Haven't seen that one. Yeah, so that scene. And then I guess because she's so distraught, she dreams of spiders because that's what you do. And then there's a montage of her the next day just standing around and staring right up through Luce's vow ceremony, which holy
Yes.
shit, they dress her like a bride. The bride of
Mhm.
Christ thing is real.
This was kind of a cool scene here. I like this, like the preparation and like I don't know, this was shot very beautifully, I
If
thought.
by
The scene.
cool you mean creepy.
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely
Yeah.
what I mean.
She looks like an actual wedding cake with like this copper, like what she has
Uh-huh.
on her head, and like the ruffles of the dress look like the tears. Anyway, and ew, Cardinal Lawrence even puts a ring on her finger. Did they really
Yes.
do that? That's
I
wild.
have no idea. I wouldn't count anything out.
And then Margaret's just sitting there crying, like she's still just having a bad couple weeks.
Hmm.
As soon as she can, she breaks away though from the event and rifles through Sister Silva's office. She finds a key under the desk, and then she remembers that spot on the wall where that angelic wallpaper just doesn't
Uh-huh.
quite line up. And that calls her attention again, thank goodness. And suddenly there's a keyhole there, which we never saw before. And way too slowly, like, hurry the fuck up, Margaret. She uses the key to open it up, and then she goes down some like stone stairs into a sort of hidden basement and then discovers what is a treasure trove of files. So many files.
Yep.
Meanwhile, like, because what she's doing is boring, like looking through the files, it goes back and forth between the vow ceremony with
Yes.
Luce and Luce is getting all habited up, like they put the face and hair part on and they're really like cinching
Real
it in
tight.
the back. They're like just making it look awful. I mean, like it feels awful. Looks nice, I guess.
Sure. I agree. It's very neat and tidy.
Really uncomfortable looking nun gear. I fortunately they don't make nuns dress like that anymore. I was happy to find out.
Nice.
Because I was like, do they still do that to women? Oh, thank God they don't. But yeah. Then Margaret finds a shit ton of very disturbing files with many photos of children with different 666 marks and different birth years. So a lot of candidates exist, possibly for the cursed daughters of Satan, but it also looks like a lot of them probably died.
Yeah.
She tries to make an escape with Carlita in the files, but the nuns attack. The important thing, though, is she is able to hide the files, and then eventually, like Father Gabriel, who I haven't mentioned yet, he's not really an important character until now.
Now.
He saw where he found them, or either saw where she hid them or found them. But anyway, in the chaos, she notices the 666 stamp is on the roof of Carlita's mouth. And then she gets locked into a room by herself, which is the perfect thing to happen to you when you're under this kind of stress. So she then has a full on panic attack. She eventually lies down. She hears some whispers. Somehow she gets the idea to throw the floor rug like over, and she discovers a bunch of images on the floor that I think depict the shackling and sexual assault of the reproductive partners of Satan. And then there's a very cool part where she's sitting there, I think like crisscross applesauce on the floor, and she's trying to tune out the whispers, and she keeps saying, that's not real, over and over,
Mhm.
until one of the whispers replies, what's not real? And she says, who said that? And then there's maniacal laughter. It's such a cool scene. But anyway, the
Yeah.
scene continues. There's maniacal laughter, and the burned specter of Sister Angelica, who has like no skin on her lower face, creeps out of the darkness. Margaret says, I'm so sorry, over and over again, until Angelica gets all the way up into her face and screams. Then Margaret screams, and then Father Gabriel bursts in. Thank goodness we have a man to come make a rescue. He says, I found the files. We got to go. So that's really his only function in the movie.
It is. I didn't trust this guy. I thought he was playing for the other team and just trying to kind of lull
I
her
thought
into a sense of security.
I thought that was possible too, but I also like looked at the how far we were into the movie, and I was like, no, it's time for an ally.
That's true.
I'm so
Good point.
jaded.
Good point. You know too
Yeah.
much.
So now the movie gets really exciting. We have Mags and Gabriel on the lam with the files. They have the evidence. They go to Father Brennan's, who explains they have to keep the evil church. They have to keep trying with this satanic population because they keep having girls, which is the problem, of
Yep.
course. the Antichrist has to be a boy. Stupid sexist evil church within the larger sexist Christianity.
A lot of levels.
So many layers of sexism. They couldn't be like, this is the evil church, everything is reversed and the women are in charge.
Oh, there you go.
Why didn't they think of nope, can't do it that way. Sorry. So they discovered the baby in the photo is not Carlita because Carlita, we now know, has the mark of the beast inside her mouth, the roof of her mouth, and this baby has the sign on her scalp. So they tear through all the folders and look at all the pictures, and we see all manners of deformities. This is a little bit like American Horror Story feeling, you know?
I agree. Yep. Like the freak show,
like,
deformity.
Birth defects. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They do find one file with the photo missing, and she discovers the photo tape mark on the back matches the of the photo matches the page in the file. So she's like, it's her. I found her. So the fathers are poring over the file now, and Margaret sort of has a little reckoning realization moment, and she realizes that Paolo knew she was the one, because how else would he tell her to look for the mark?
Yeah.
So she slowly lifts up her hair to very intense choral vocalizations and flashes back to her glitzed up self. This is with the hair, the night that she went to the disco. And this is a truly terrifying scene of what she remembers, like mixed up with imagery she saw in the Abbey with horrifying music. And I just want to say again, this actor is truly incredible at what she is able to accomplish with just her face.
Yes.
So like they're showing the flashback of the really bad stuff. And even after they put the mask on, what she does with her face is just enough to tell the whole story. And I'm not actually sure I will ever like fully recover from that scene, to be perfectly honest. Like this is one of those times in horror where you're like, oh, I just went a little bit too far, and I think I'm just a little more broken than I was. It's okay.
Flew too close to the sun.
I know, right? So I have to say, in this flashback, we actually see very, very little of the CGI jackal itself, which is a really good thing. I was afraid the first time I saw it in the theater that we were going to see the whole thing and it was going to be so fucking cheesy, because that's always what happens.
Yeah.
But we see its eyeball, and like there's not a pupil. That's pretty scary, right? And then we see a hand with claws on her belly, and that is almost too much right there. Like it's very close to showing too much, but that's it. Oh, I think there's a phallus, and it's like fucking enormous, of course, because
I don't know if I noticed this. I mean,
it's like right
I'm not
after,
feeling bad that I didn't notice it, but like,
I didn't notice it the first time, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I don't want to see it again.
Especially if it's on the big screen, it's even larger then.
That's probably why I missed it. I was just looking at the detail, The eyeball was cool though.
Yes.
Cool as fuck. I would buy that poster. Back at Father Brennan's, Mags has a complete and utter breakdown now, and Father Brennan tries to comfort her, but he does confirm that she has the mark of the beast. And one of the best lines in the whole movie happens in this scene right at this moment. She says,
"Somebody say something."
Because like this big revelation has just happened, and it's such a human moment. Like it's like that's really how you would feel and how the mood would be. It's like just very realistically portrayed, I think, as much as you can in this universe.
That's a good point. That one went right past me. That's a good point though you make.
Me too, the first time. In the aftermath of this revelation, when Father Brennan is comforting her, and like he's like, I'm so very sorry that this happened to you, which is also a very real thing to say. Then it seems like they're planning for an abortion somehow, because it's midnight, June 6th coming up. We just now find out. So they're going to be coming for her. So that's when Fathers Gabriel and Brennan take Mags on a drive to see a doctor who supposedly knows what he's doing. Excuse me, how do Catholic priests know about these people?
That's a good point. I don't know. They have a second address book, I guess.
I feel like there's some hypocrisy going on, but that's
Just
all
a
I'm going to
little
say
bit.
about that. Yeah. But good for this movie for including that as part of the plot. It's, it's a really weird time in the United States.
Yes.
And I think Immaculate also had a lot to do with that theme of like I am involuntarily impregnated and there's nothing I can do, you know?
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, we know that they're not going to make it to the abortion doctor. Margaret starts to get sick in the car, and then the car gets T-boned. It seems just
Oof.
like a random act of Satan. I don't think there were any bad actors in the other car.
No,
I'm pretty sure Father Gabriel doesn't make it.
we don't see him again, I don't think.
I mean, maybe we will if there's a sequel, but I won't get
Yeah.
ahead. So we just see Margaret by herself, pulling herself out of the wreckage, and we hear a clock bell striking midnight. And then there's the most fucking amazing scene in
Oh,
the entire
man.
movie. It's Margaret going through this long series of contortions and vocalizations, and it's simply incredible. I can't stress enough that this actor is fucking amazing.
Yes.
She's like the rare kind of artist that can make something out of nothing.
I feel like this scene goes on it feels like it goes on for almost like 2.5 minutes or something. It's just, and that's
It
the
does
only
seem
thing
long.
that's happening. It's just,
And the first time I saw it, I have to say that I was a little bit puzzled. I was like, okay, this is really powerful and spooky, but
sure.
This movie doesn't do things without advancing the story, really. So
Right.
what is happening? This is her evil demonic labor. It's not like
Yes.
regular lady labor. That's what it is.
Yep.
Because then at the end of that, I assume she's trying to escape, but she can't. She's completely overcome by the evil force that is propelling the Antichrist out of her uterus at this moment. Her water breaks and bleeding. She's kind of helpless there on the ground. And then suddenly she's surrounded by all the black coats, the secret evil church members. Okay, I have to say, I fucking love the evil church music that plays when she comes to, and she's chained down on a stretcher. At first, it's black all around. We don't really see what's in the room. We see next Cardinal Lawrence, and Cardinal Lawrence gets his evil Oscars speech moment. There should totally be an evil Oscars. Isn't that a great idea?
I like that idea.
Anyway, villains only. Cardinal L says that this is what Mag's whole life has been about. That this birth will be the crowning achievement of her existence. So really just more sexist church bullshit as per usual. I mean, right? So some evil clergy are actually around in the room. There's a lot of them. And a doctor starts prepping for a C-section. And during the prep for the C-section, this is probably a part that would give a lot of people scary feelings because you see all the scalpels and stuff.
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of surgeries, so this doesn't really do it for me. But during the prep for the C-section, I swear the Latin singing in the score is the same Latin word for word as what the monks sing in Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
No.
But set to a different tune. We have to check this.
Oh, that's funny if that's true.
Because the part where the monks hit themselves with the boards?
Yeah,
That part.
Okay, I haven't seen that in forever, but yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Anyway, I think the C-section seems to be medically accurate. They don't really show a whole lot of the surgery.
No.
And Margaret is pleading the whole time. It sounds like she doesn't get any pain relief or not very much, which is horrible because she keeps saying she's in pain. Incidentally, that's exactly how my own mother gave birth.
Really?
Because they didn't believe her that she could feel everything. And they're like, well, you're going to feel some pressure, honey. And she's like, no, I feel everything. And then they sliced her open. She screamed. So this is the only difference. I think in real life, one would be that kind of uncontrollable guttural, screaming.
Yeah.
And then they gassed her out. That's all she remembers.
Oh my gosh. That's
she didn't have any more kids after that.
That's fair.
And, evil medical patriarchy. Fortunately, I didn't have a twin brother. So,
that
hopefully at my advanced age, I would know if I was personally the Antichrist, but you never know. So the surgeon removes an amniotic sac. That's what it is. Cuts it open. And it's twins. One girl, which no one cares about at all, and one boy, which makes everyone ecstatic.
I thought this reveal was kind of cool. They have they showed the baby from the side, and then they kind of pan up and you see, you see
the baby
the other
crying,
one next
and the
to
baby
it.
that you see is not crying, and you're like,
Yes.
there's another baby over there. And there
That was a
really
subtle
is,
little thing they
yeah.
did. They didn't have to do that, but I appreciated it.
And the babies are cute.
Yeah.
Cute babies.
Ah.
Cute little evil babies.
Well,
Anyway,
one of them.
I know, one of them. So this is my impression on the second watch through. At least the doctor had the decency to sew her back up. I mean, it's
Yes.
not like he had to.
Mhm.
They could have just disposed of her right there.
Right.
But, somebody did something decent. And then the whole evil congregation is just like enthralled with their new antichrist, and they're like almost worshiping him. Everyone's ignoring the girl baby, which typical. Okay, just today, I saw a Reddit thread with a bunch of misogynists saying they would never, ever, under any circumstances, want to have daughters, girl babies. This is still a real thing.
Ah, it's insane.
Unfortunately. So Margaret calls out and asks to hold the baby, which everyone, of course, understands to mean the boy baby.
Right.
Because, Cardinal Lawrence gives the boy to her, believing like she's come around to the dark side.
Yeah.
But in fact, it was all a trick. As soon as she gets the chance, she stabs Cardinal Lawrence in the throat with a scalpel, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And a great line happens around that. So before he gets stabbed, he asks her,
Don't you hear him telling you? Don't you hear his voice?
No. I only hear my own.
and then she stabs him. And
Ah,
then
yeah, I like that.
if she gets up right after having a C-section, everyone can we just stop and
Oof,
appreciate that
that's
right
a
now?
good
Because
point.
like her torso has been torn apart and organs have been unpacked and repacked.
Yep.
Like this is a miracle right here, what's happening. So
Sure.
she stands up and she's like, I'm gonna stab the Antichrist, everyone stay back. And everyone's still ignoring the girl baby. I just want to say. And then like Sister Silva throws herself on Margaret. Then we have this moment that Luce stabs Margaret.
Yes.
Of course, we knew that Luce had to be in on it the whole time. This shouldn't be a surprise. Like they needed Luce to take her out to the club. That was the whole ploy.
Yeah.
Because she had to drink so that she could have an explainable, amnesia.
Yes.
But for some reason, they kind of act like this is the moment when we all find out and it's a really big deal. So just a comment. The evil clergy people retrieve the baby Antichrist, baby Damien, as we know later. And poor Margaret just collapses. And Sister Silva's like, burn the fucking thing down. And everyone leaves. Like the room is burst into flames with Margaret and the baby girl still there. While the room is burning, Margaret is kind of, I think, roused or moved by the cries of her infant daughter. And to the audience's great surprise and disbelief, in my opinion, Carlita appears. How
Yeah.
did she get there? Did she get a driver? Has she been walking all day?
This I was not believing. This young girl just popped up out of nowhere and is going to save.
They could have done it without her, but you know what? Maybe it's important for her character later.
Why didn't they have
anyway,
Father? What was his name? Father
Brennan.
No, the other one, the one that we don't care about that much.
Gabriel, he died.
Gabriel. Oh, did he die?
I think he died. That's why we didn't see him again.
Oh, that was in the car crash.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay. I was
yeah.
gonna say that might be slightly more believable than like this young girl coming to save Mags. But anyway.
They could have had Father Brennan come too, but I think they wanted to save him for anyway. We'll get there.
Yep.
Yeah. So Carlita helps Mags and Mags's sister daughter escape the flames, and as they make their escape, they hear the jackal screaming. This is weird. So this is a creature that's been like forced to breed with unwilling humans, but also it's a little bit sad. Like none of this is really the jackal's fault. And now they're burning him down inside inside its prison cell, which is horrible. We don't do that to any other kind of prisoners. And so that's kind of a, moment of pause. Like the church really is the villain here. It's not Satan. Anyway, just want to call that out. Right.
Sorry, I'm real cynical.
It is revealed, though, that the evil church people then kill the millionaire Thorne family's baby and replace it with Margaret's baby boy. And then we're all set for the original Omen. So that's a wrap, right? Well, not quite. So flash forward years later, Margaret, Carlita, and Margaret's sister daughter live in the middle of nowhere in a cozy cabin, and that pesky Father Brennan arrives again. Oh my God. Margaret greets him with a gun, which is just perfect. Like, I don't trust anybody, you know?
Yeah.
And Brennan says he's there to warn them, of course. That's what he does. That the church knows that they are alive and are planning to kill all of them and are plotting to, you know, wipe them off the face of the earth. So as Brennan is on his way out, he also gives the good tidings that Damien is alive and well and rising to power. But Damien must be like 5 or younger because
Hmm.
spoilers for the original movie, that's how old he was when Father Brennan died in the original movie. So
Yeah.
such a little tyrant, that Damien. Anyway, that's the end. Cue the hour-long credit of the small European country that made up the cast. There you have it. What did you think of the ending, Bill?
The ending was fantastic. I mean, this is one of those where they just take it up a notch, like, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes before the movie's over, and it just stays at that level, or it goes up even in intensity. I think they did a really good job, like you said, of not showing like much of like the jackal or any of the stuff. Like they showed just enough of like the creature, and a lot of the like surgery scenes really had me squirming. That stuff normally doesn't
Mm.
get me, but like a big pregnant belly and like
Oh, yeah.
scalpels and stuff, like I was surprised at how like kind of like, I don't know, uncomfortable I was during those scenes. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and I like that. Like, well, one of my biggest things about this movie is that it's a great standalone movie. Yes, it's cool that they connected, of course. And if you're a huge fan of The Omen, like you'll see lots of things. But just as someone who has maybe never seen The Omen or hasn't seen it in a while, this movie stands very well on its own. And I like that last little scene they put at the end just to throw that last line in there. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great ending.
I believe that they are definitely making a next one, which is fine with me as long as it focuses on Margaret and the girls. Like, I don't think do we want another remake of The Omen itself? Like, we had one bad one already.
They're going to do a sequel to this prequel
I believe so. Yeah.
that will take place still before the original timeline.
Maybe it would be just an additional parallel story of some kind.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I can be on board with
I
that.
mean, that's pretty much what they were setting it up for, and I've
Yeah.
heard talk. I think the idea of any alternate ending was probably precluded by the fact that the goal of the movie as a prequel was to
Yes.
seg right into the events of The Omen 1976.
Pretty
It
set
did
in
a
stone.
very fine job of that. It also clearly set itself up for at least one sequel.
Uh-huh.
Personally, I don't want The Omen to be remade again. I think
Now,
I will say this might be controversial. I don't think The Omen was that great of a movie.
the original?
Yeah, it had a lot of like really cool things about it,
Yeah.
including the music, but I think this movie was better. And
Interesting.
I'm probably going to get death threats now, but because people really do love that movie. But I like the addition of Margaret and the girls to this franchise. And I liked how it ended with kind of a cliffhanger that they're going to be hunted by this evil church. I think we should talk about like, our final thoughts and how we would rate the movie. Would you like to go first, or shall we just go at the same time?
Absolutely. We'll just talk at the same pace. It'll be perfect. No, I'll go first. Why not?
All right.
So there's a lot to like about this film. All of the performances are fantastic. Especially as we talked about, Nell Tiger Free as Margaret was just fantastic. I think this movie hinges on her performance, if you ask me. If you get someone who's, got less range, I don't think it works as well. Especially how she nails playing super innocent at the beginning, and then you see that transformation to all the way to the scene where she's, possessed at midnight on the 6th. Like that
Yep.
that to me is just fantastic. And actually, it's kind of funny. I was thinking of the Black Coat's daughter while I watched this. I'm like, I wonder if the girl in that, Slipka? I always forget her name.
Kiernan Shipka.
Yeah, Shipka. I'm like, I wonder if someone like that could pull it off. Like I feel like that could be a casting that wouldn't work, but it's the same idea of like starting off as like
But that
innocent.
movie was almost 10 years old. Like she might have different chops now. You know
Oh,
what I
that's
mean?
true. That's a good point. But anyway, Nell Tiger Free's fantastic. Everyone's really good in this movie. The cinematography is absolutely beautiful. This movie is shot so incredibly well. I loved all the shots around Rome. I went there for like my anniversary with my wife, and it just kind of brought me back. Like it has such a feel to it, and I thought they captured that really well. It delivered some great gore at very unexpected times, is the way I'll put it. I was very caught off guard by a lot of the gore in this movie in a good way. It definitely shocked me and like was not what I was expecting. The only gripe I have is kind of what we already talked about, the whole, Mags going clubbing, like making that decision. She's like, I've never been to a bar or anything. And then all of a sudden she's at the bar just like raging. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I buy it, but whatever. It's a minor nitpick. So, given all of that, I am going to give this movie a solid 4 out of 5 screams. How about
Oh,
you,
that's
Stacie?
nice. Before I give my final comments, I just remembered you said there was a humorous thing,
Oh
and I
yeah.
don't remember if you pointed it out.
Oh, this one is you're gonna laugh at how silly it is. It's the when Luz is and Margaret are first talking. Margaret's like, "Yeah, I'm from Pittsfield, Massachusetts," and she goes, "Oh, how are things in Pissfield, Massachusetts?" or something. Luz does.
When you were talking early in the movie and saying she was from Pittsfield, I said, yeah, she's from Pittsfield, but you didn't even
Oh, I didn't
notice.
catch that. No, sorry, but that was like the really obvious one. Then I also thought it was funny when they introduced Sister, is it Angelica?
Angelica,
Yeah, originally she's walking down the stairs and the
yeah,
main nun
being weird.
introduces. Yeah, she's being super weird and like just off-putting, and the nun says something like, "Yeah, she was left here on our doorstep. She makes all the children laugh." I'm like, this is the nun that makes all of the children laugh. She looks like psychotic and will not smile. I don't
And
know. I
then, like,
just thought that
right
was
after that, she commits suicide in front of the children. That's like the
yeah,
Omen kind of humor right there.
exactly. It's a little dark humor, but yeah, those there were a
Yeah.
couple little things like that peppered in that I thought was kind of humorous.
Yeah. They probably had a handful of references they knew they had to make.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
So I really enjoyed the cinematography. This is one reason I love to go to the movies on the big screen. And I loved that they used film techniques and effects and gorgeous lighting to
Hmm.
make it look like real 70s kind of movie, as well as like some of the longer shots. There were some, longer things that were done like, done all in one shot, which
Yes.
is a risky thing, an expensive risk,
Uh-huh.
but it's so cool when you pull it off, and, like, some of the dialogue segments were, like, what moviegoers in the 1970s would have patience for.
Yes.
A lot of wide shots and visually stunning shots. It just made such a great silver screen experience, which I really appreciate as myself, an ancient relic of a person who loves going to the movies in a real theater. And I hope that this kind of venue and this kind of experience never dies off in like this digital age. But also, the music was as amazing as the original. Like it definitely sounded like they spared no expense on the choir, vocalists,
Hmm.
and the orchestra, in line with their commitment to the whole 1970s thing and the outstanding music. I discovered that Mark Corvin's original score is actually available on a special edition vinyl. This is according to Fangoria magazine, of which I'm a
Cool.
subscriber. Also, the acting was like just superb. It was good all around. And then Nell Tiger Free is fucking amazing. I really hope that as a lesser known than her co-stars, that she was adequately compensated because I
Yeah.
know that doesn't always happen. And I want to see her in more horror, like for as long as I live, please.
I think we'll get a lot more movies with her, honestly. I think
Oh,
she nailed
hope
this
so.
one.
Yeah. She's my feature scream queen now, I think. I like that this movie relied on storytelling, and imagery and atmosphere to build the dread and create this terror and make the scares. Like there aren't any cheap scares really, except for maybe like the nun like
Yeah.
grabbing Max for no reason.
Yep.
Even the noise jump scare in the very first car ride, that was like that led into the discussion of the labor protests and
Yeah.
you know the perceived problems with people leaving the church that was kind of the engine behind the whole movie. So I feel like even the jump scares, like they either advanced the plot or they seemed fairly well earned at most places. Of course, they had a giant budget, and like some film stops will just like use that against a film. But I think that they use this budget like incredibly well. I have a couple quibbles that we talked about. They're mostly minor. I wish they could have subverted patriarchy a little more, but you know what? They had to stick with a certain kind of story. And I respect that. So I'm going to give it a solid 4.5.
I figured you'd go that route. I think it's well deserved. It's one of those things where I can't really tell you why I didn't give it a 5. Maybe it's not right in my wheelhouse as a subject matter, but I think they did it as well as they possibly could. So I might have kind of a limit as to what I can give ratings based on
Sure.
the type of film, but that changes all the time. I don't know. I would be remiss if I didn't share this funny story. So I went to go watch this movie and I clicked on the wrong movie somehow. I don't know why. And it was called Omen. And it was a Congolese film. I didn't look at IMDb till I started watching it and trying to figure out what the heck was going on.
Did it at least have good subtitles?
It did. It had great subtitles. I actually didn't know what language they were speaking at the beginning, which is I think why I looked it up on to figure out what was happening. And I watched a half hour of this movie that takes place in the Congo, and I'm thinking, all right, with some of these big blockbuster horror movies, there's like a really extended, like, what do you call that? Like a prelude or, that like first part that, and then you get like a title card 45 minutes into the movie. I'm like, okay,
Like
maybe
that
that's what's
terrible
happening.
new Exorcist movie?
Yes, exactly. They're setting up this huge backstory. And then I'm like, wait a second, this isn't even the movie I'm supposed to be watching for this week. So
So funny.
it just goes to show when you go into a movie completely blind, this type of thing can happen, but I still generally advocate for going into a movie completely blind.
Did you ever finish the Congolese movie?
I didn't, but I think I might actually do it. I think there was only another like hour left. And
Was it a horror movie, in fact?
so it was listed as a thriller drama, but from what I saw, I think you could make it you could categorize it as a soft horror movie, I would say. So
Nice. I've never seen a Congolese movie in my entire life.
nor have I.
It sounds educational.
Maybe we'll have to do a bonus episode on that movie. It'll be just really bizarre and probably fascinating.
Can't wait to do fun facts about that one.
Yeah, right. Anyway, do you have anything else before we wrap up, Stacie?
Oh, I think I said everything I could possibly say about this movie during this episode. Thank you for listening.
Fair enough. So for our next episode, we'll wrap up our Priests and Prequels series, and we'll be discussing 2016's Ouija, Origin of Evil. Please follow our show, give us a rating, and leave a review on your chosen podcast service. And until next time, stay scary.
See ya.